Pretend it's about 2014 or 2015. Pharrell's Happy is inescapable, and every background of a song in a YouTube video sounds like a variation of Fantasy by Alina Baraz. You are a young teenager of color who uses Tumblr, that one social media site that isn't Instagram or Twitter. As you scroll through your dashboard of Lana Del Rey screenshots, grayscale images of skinny white girls in thigh-high socks, and other relatable depression memes, you come across something out of the ordinary. A selfie superimposed against classical artworks. You click on the username of the original poster and see the hashtag #ArtHo. Two simple words that will lead you down a rabbit hole of self-love, artistic expression, and shameless diversity. Welcome to Venusstadt, a channel devoted to discussing gender equality and women in the realm of arts and culture. Today I'm covering the #ArtHo movement. Not the fad internet aesthetic, but the substantial social media-based movement that focused on uplifting marginalized groups in traditional art spaces. To understand why the #ArtHo movement was a big deal at the time, you need to know a bit about art and social media history, especially that of tumblr.com. What is and isn't art has always been subjective. People of color, at least within the context of the Western art canon, have had their creations routinely excluded as art by a subjectivity rooted in white supremacy. Likewise, white women or poor white people have been excluded due to misogyny or classism. Those works by people of color that were regarded as art were often stripped from their regions of origins through violence. As for Tumblr, the website pre-2014 was known as a hub for alternative communities and a space for significant fandom exchange, both of which heavily focused on whiteness. This was a bit ironic considering Tumblr users were more likely to be of Black or Latina origin. One center of diversity in Tumblr's white sea was Black Tumblr, which is just as it sounds, Black Tumblr users. Black Tumblr was arguably an important stepstone in the development of online activism into what we now know it as, and on that platform, Black Tumblr users were engaging in what sociocultural linguist Kendra Calhoun called everyday activism, or the sharing of personal stories and perspectives in public spaces with the aim of challenging the status quo through erosive social change. Calhoun specifically acknowledges that Black Tumblr accomplished everyday activism by challenging negative ideas about and promoting positive representations of Black people. It's against this social justice-based backdrop that the #ArtHo movement would first emerge. The movement was started by Tumblr users Mars and Jam. Mars, who is gender fluid, was notably about 15 at the time. The term #ArtHo had been coined by rapper Babio Baggins in the caption of a viral Tumblr selfie. Sometime later, Mars created the #ArtHo movement's iconic selfie style. Jam saw the selfie, approached them, and the two discussed how selfies could be used to change public perceptions and, according to Jam, create a possible outlet to shatter gender, class, and race ceilings by reclaiming and promoting one's own image. The term #ArtHo matched this perfectly, in that it was a reclamation of the AAVE term for whore, which Jam said was used as a pernicious tactic to diminish the worth of women, especially Black women. Quote, people of color, and specifically Black women, have historically been excluded from the art world or simply used as hypersexual muses, whether it be in paintings, music, photographs, etc., Jam told BuzzFeed in 2015. I think right now, with this movement, we've spoken up and said, I have autonomy over my representation. I'm going to use that to shine a light on how people of color have been excluded or made into tropes in art as a whole, end quote. Thus, #ArtHo became a hashtag where fellow Tumblr users, specifically women and gender nonconforming people of color, were encouraged to share selfies, art, and other multimedia materials. With this hashtag, these users carved out a space for themselves both in the art realm and on a social media platform where they were overlooked. In short, it became a movement to uplift Black and brown queer artists. Mars's goal for the movement was for it to be a revolution of social awareness and self-confidence, while Jam's was for it to become a representation of self-love and acceptance. So the movement itself, as Nell Frizzell hints at in a 2015 Guardian article, was a mix of the academic and the adolescent. Participating users discussed how institutionalized racism, sexism, and homophobia affected their lives as teenagers, aka Calhoun's everyday activism. The #ArtHo tag hosted original works such as paintings, drawings, poetry, and photography. But the calling card of the art hoe was definitely the selfie, which usually included drawings or magic wand cutouts of the subject against paintings by Claude Monet, Vincent van Gogh, and others. These selfies functioned as a way to, quote, raise questions about the historical representation of people of color in art. This might seem frivolous today since selfies have become an accepted part of the social media landscape, but back in the early 10s, it was often maligned as the height of millennial self-obsession. Though selfies were technically a form of photography, it seemed like its sheer accessibility disqualified it as art to some people. The perceived vanity of the selfie was often pinned on young women, as explained by S.E. Smith in a 2015 Guardian article. Quote, it's telling that because the selfie is often such a female endeavor, it's treated as a lesser art form. Women taking pictures of themselves are vapid, vain, and ridiculous. Women documenting their own lives aren't contributing anything valuable to the larger world of art. And those who read as women and are treated as women are gathered under that umbrella too. We're not supposed to talk about our lives and express our nature, because don't we know we're boring and no one cares? End quote. Against the backdrop of the anti-selfie, these artistic selfies function as a way for self-proclaimed art hoes to express themselves amid a culture that treated them as laughingstocks. As you can observe, the art hoe movement served as an inclusive community with no entry fee. Just post a selfie or share your artwork in the tag, and you are part of a community that embraced self-love, diversity, and creativity. Unfortunately, this easy entry made the movement ripe for co-optation. As the art hoe hashtag became more well-known across the platform, white Tumblr users began to use the tag as well. This wasn't bad in and of itself. However, thanks to the tendency of the internet to strip down movements to their basic commodifiable parts, as well as the way info floats across the internet without proper sources, the art hoe tag soon became known for its white and light-skinned thin woman in quirky sweaters with trendy backpacks. This is the art hoe aesthetic you now see when you go on Pinterest or Google the movement. Scholar Maria Strategaki defines co-optation as the process by which the concept itself is not rejected, but its initial meaning is transformed and used for a purpose different than the original one. Speaking from a feminist point of view, Sarah DeJong and Suzanne Kim point out how certain activist principles are co-opted into problematic structures to the dismay of activists themselves. Quote, feminist scholars who are often simultaneously advocates and activists in particular fields witness with dismay how what they have lauded as achievements of their struggles are transformed into an uncanny double that they can neither simply embrace nor wholly disavow. I'm sure you have also witnessed co-optation before, whether it be the feminist movement, hashtag Black Lives Matter shift from grassroots movement to nonprofit organization misappropriating funds, or how terms like woke and cancel were stolen from black folks on the internet. In this case, these white Tumblr users took over the art hoe label for a quick aesthetic fix before moving on to the next new thing, erasing the movement's original context in the process. Though the art hoe movement's co-optation wasn't as grand as the previous three examples, it was still disappointing, especially for a website that prided itself on how progressive it was compared to other platforms. As one can imagine, the original art hoe participants were not at all happy about their tag being spammed with these irrelevant consumerist images of other people. But any attempts to speak out against this were often met with the racist hand-waving that they had been fighting against in the first place. According to Mars, people tried to use the angry black person stereotype when I called them out on it, telling me it wasn't a big deal. But it felt like a big deal. People of color are often denied artistic ability, or the things we birth to the world are stolen by our white counterparts. I never intended art hoe to be that way. To reclaim the art hoe label and distance themselves from the watered-down aesthetic, the movement shifted from a simple hashtag to an Instagram account. The Art Hoe Collective was born. The collective maintained the same goals as the original hashtag, except now the collective took submissions via email. The result was a more streamlined, centralized internet movement. As the collective grew, so did its recognitions and ambitions. It received press from multiple established news sources such as Teen Vogue, Huffington Post, and Vice, and came in third in Day's 100 Artists list in 2016. The group even attracted celebrities Amanda Stenberg and Willow Smith into their fold. By March 2016, the collective had hosted 2 in-person meetups in New York City and DC, with plans to host more. Curators also expressed a desire to have a physical venue akin to New York's Teen Art Salon, where members could create art together. By 2018, there had been meetups at festivals like Art Basel and Afropunk, and professional development panels and workshops. They also offered microgrants for artists in need of funding in 2020. And that's where the basic history of the art ho movement seems to end. The collective's Tumblr and Twitter pages ceased operation in 2016, and the latest post on the Instagram was created April 6, 2021. The Instagram page was also deleted in August for reasons I will get into later. Despite being obscured by the so-called art ho aesthetic due to people attempting to overcorrect and credit the can backpack craze to Mars, the art ho collective's artistic and digital legacy is pretty amazing. Ultimately, the movement gave many marginalized people a platform for self-acceptance and creativity, just as its founders intended. The collective, of course, was many artists' first foray into the world of art and curation, as mentioned by academic Ashley G. Wade. Aside from bypassing the gatekeeping of traditional art spaces, the collective, quote, made it easier for artists to encourage and support each other, while potentially building professional networks outside the confines of formal cultural institutions, end quote. In sum, the Art Ho Collective provided invaluable artistic experience for the young people of color it took into its fold. The Art Ho movement, of course, also had the unintentional effect of spawning the co-opted Art Ho aesthetic, which would later be rehashed as the Visco Girl, which I view as one of the first modern major internet aesthetics. From there, we get things like Plant Mom and Cottagecore, which would spawn several other aesthetics ending in core, but honestly, that's an entire article and video topic in and of itself. If you're familiar with black artists online or just up on your internet history, you might have already recognized many of the people who used to be involved in the Art Ho Collective. For example, through their work as curator for Art Ho Collective, Brooklyn artist Sage Adams became a creative director for notorious former Tumblr girl SZA. Fellow curator Jada McGarrell founded the Black Image Center, which provides resources like equipment and mentorship to black photographers. Other people formerly associated with the Art Ho movement and collective include model Erin Phillips, model Gabrielle Richardson, and designer Ryan Finn. As for the founders, Jam's last Tumblr post was in March 2022, but they are still active on TikTok making videos about their experiences with autism. Mars in 2021 photographed SZA and had their work featured in Baltimore's Waller Gallery for a showcase highlighting queer Haitian artists in September of that same year. They continue to post photography on their Instagram. Now, as I was researching and writing the script for this video, some new info emerged about the collective's later years from Mars on their Instagram account. Because this info is new and super sensitive and complex, I'm choosing not to cover it in this video, especially since I was unable to get into contact with those involved. Mars's IG post is linked in the description of this video, and if you search Art Ho Movement or Art Ho Collective on Twitter, I'm sure you can find commentary on the relevant information. An unfortunate casualty of this new situation has been the Art Ho Collective's official Instagram page, which was deleted between August 10th and August 21st. I also haven't received a response from the Art Ho Collective's last known email account as to why this decision was made. This situation aside, the Art Ho Collective ultimately did have a profound effect on social media, especially young black and brown artistic teens during its heyday. It helped young people share their artwork and have their experiences platformed at a time where marginalized people were often ignored on the internet. To me, it's rather unfortunate that the whole thing ended the way it did, and that, for whatever reason, the decision was made to delete the IG account entirely, since it was one of the very few reliable resources to learn about the collective. In either case, I'm glad the Art Ho Collective did exist at one point, and I can't say that I would be interested in art, or at least as interested in art as I am now without its existence when I was like 13 or 14 on Tumblr. But yeah, this is the end of my video on the Art Ho Collective. As you can see, this is the very first video on this channel. I plan to make more videos about women in general in the arts and culture sphere soon. If you are interested in things like that, feel free to subscribe. Feel free to follow me on Twitter for updates, or follow me on Substack for updates. Thank you for watching.